I'd like to thank you, all of you. We continue this talk because of Frank. Frank, maybe you will also take the stage with me. Frank Blau, he's our guest for tonight. And we welcome you very warmly that you came here. Thanks a lot to Martin for taking the opportunity to come here to London. And I just would like to give 2-3 slides on how, I think I press myself. Why do we do this? So why did Johannes Moser, Christoph Klocker and I start with this small hackathon that now grew into a very decent club in the region? So it's not because of us being something special, but it's much more about many people believing in the problems that we have. And I think the most obvious issues that we have are manpower versus technology. So today, we are faced with a reality that is China, where we see an hourly rate of $3, or if you go to Turkey, we have $1 hourly rate, and we have around 6.5 billion people that are running on these very low rates. So it's a lot of work, labor force out there, and that's very challenging. On the other hand, we have the Silicon Valley, which is $60 or more hourly rate. In Austria, we have like 46, and it's just 800 million people. So 6.5 billion versus 800 million. And this already explains a bit the problem or the caveat that we're standing in. So we can either do this, which means that we outsource a lot, or we can really go and try and build talent and harness opportunities that we do have. So that's why we can go for 2 ways. Either we try to scale in manual labor, that would mean that we lower our hourly rates and try to get as little social service and as much cheap work, or we try to scale by capturing the work through intelligent systems, pretty much. So that's the way why we think digitalization should be done here. And now we grabbed, I think, 4 topics, right? And Frank will now start out with talking about these 4 key topics. I think it doesn't work. I think it's easier if you press.
Hit the buttons. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here this evening. And I liked the slide earlier about Bill Gates, that the internet is all hype. And I'm here to give you a few more hypes. I moved here 5 months ago from Seattle, Washington. And I don't know who those people are that will work for $60 an hour, but they're not in Seattle, that's for sure. When we started thinking about this presentation, we had to pick some technologies that we thought would be demonstrative of the future. And some of these you may have heard of before, some of you may be working in these technologies already, but we wanted to pick some really interesting ones that kind of show you not only what the Digital Initiative is kind of talking about in our meetings, but also some of the reasons that people come here. And I can tell you for myself, the first time I came to Vorarlberg to visit my friend, I thought there were a lot of cows and farms and cheese here. And then we started to peel away a little bit and meet some technology companies, some of the ones we met on the screen here, like Crate. And I realized that this area is a lot more. There's actually Silicon Valley going on right here in Vorarlberg. And I wanted to talk about some technologies that I think are going to transform both Vorarlberg and the world in the future. Some of this may be kind of far out, but that's me. So the first one is cloud. The cloud really represents to me as a technology person. So I'm a data architect. I work for iNet Logistics here in Dornbirn. The cloud really represents something new here in Vorarlberg, because when I first started interviewing the companies here, I would talk about things like Amazon, things I'm used to in Seattle, Microsoft, Google, and people would be like, we don't really trust the cloud, you know, it seems kind of scary to put all our data in the cloud. And one of the stories that I tell is I worked on a project in Seattle where we took a film studio. They had about $3 million worth of hardware. That's what it cost them to run every year, about $3 million. And we took them to a cloud platform, that is moving their data onto an internet-based cloud. And at the end of the day, their spend for this project was about $50,000. So from about $3 million a year to about $50,000 a year. That takes away a lot of fear. If you hear those kinds of numbers, that the kind of money you can save by provisioning things on cloud platforms is huge. So, a couple of numbers. So, hybrid cloud adoption. What that means is you don't have to take everything all at once and put it onto a cloud platform. You can actually do a little of both, and we call the stuff you do in-house, we call that on-premise, or on-prem if you're really cool. And the combination of on-prem and cloud is actually starting to actually take hold here, both with the company I work for and a lot of other companies too. I still think there's a lot less adoption, and one of the reasons I think is that people in Austria and even in Vorarlberg like things that are built here. They like things that actually have a local flavor to them. And some of this stuff is, if you think of Microsoft, what city do you think of? Think of Seattle, right? Redmond if you're a local. And the same thing with Amazon. People don't really have a really understanding of how these platforms play here. Amazon doesn't have a platform here in Austria. If you actually type in amazon.at into your computer, anybody tried that? Where does it take you? Amazon.de. So, and I think that makes a big difference to people here. But it's starting to turn around a little bit because the adoption of the cloud technology is really exploding, and part of the reason is those economies of scale. I can actually, if I have to add a service, I'll just give you an example from my work. If I want to plug in the movement of trucks, that is like GPS devices on trucks, and I want to actually add that to my information systems architecture, if all of the boxes that I have are in my data center, in my building, that's really hard to do because they're all out there in the world. They're all driving around different places. If I have a cloud platform, I can actually provision services, things like tracking GPS and stuff like that, much, much easier and at a much, much lower cost. The other thing I can do on the cloud, which is really the phenomenal power of it, is if I have to run a calculation at the end of the month, for example, let's say it's a payroll calculation, and that calculation takes enormous amounts of power for short periods of time. I have two choices. I can either buy that power for myself and put the boxes in-house, and then for the rest of the month, they sit there, not running anything. In the cloud, I can actually say, it's the end of the month, give me 100 more servers to run this calculation. Happens relatively instantly, and at the end of those calculations, it shrinks back down again to my old system. We call that elasticity. And that is a huge, powerful factor in moving to cloud platforms. So I have not met an IT company in probably the last 5 years that isn't talking about cloud. It's very rare for me to go into a company today and not have them have some sort of cloud strategy. So it's happening, and if you go to those startups that we talked about earlier, I would imagine that almost all of them are provisioned on cloud. So it really is happening with companies. This is a really interesting topic, AI, artificial intelligence. I actually first started writing about artificial intelligence, I hate to show my age, but probably about 25, maybe even 30 years ago. At the time, we thought it was going to revolutionize the world. We thought everything's going to be done by artificial intelligence, it's going to be really cool, and then it just kind of died off. And what happened in the last 5-6 years is that computing power has increased to make this actually viable. And what artificial intelligence is, very, very simply, is, again, I'll give an example from my work. If I have to route a truck from one location to another, I can manage how to do that. I can check the traffic, I can check the weather, and I can check what kind of trucks I have, and I can figure out how long that truck is going to get there. What if I have 1,000 trucks? What if I have 10,000 trucks going to 20,000 different locations? I can't even fit that into my little brain. I studied English literature, so all this math doesn't really get me anyways. But artificial intelligence is the way of taking all your data and making intelligent decisions from it, not just once, but teaching it how to make more intelligent decisions the next time. And that's a really powerful thing, because in the past, we had this idea of artificial intelligence. But now, because of cloud and faster hardware, we can actually do this. So companies like Google, Baidu, Facebook, they all use these technologies, some of which to enable things we talked about earlier. I don't speak a lot of German, but I understand a little bit of it. And we talked about that marketing of Facebook, how they can direct, I think that's what we were talking about, right? Really hope so. Or else I'm really lost here. But how you can actually direct marketing to people. That's all done through what you would actually call artificial intelligence, or maybe we heard it referred to as machine learning. But it's a way of teaching computers how to use massive amounts of data to make decisions and then repeat those decisions, and is going to be very much a part of the future of technology. And everybody's investing in it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Better search results. If you use Google and you look for something, where does that show up next? Does it show up in your Facebook? The thing that makes me the most frustrated, I'm just going to complain for a second here, is I buy something. I buy a pair of shoes, right? And then I go to some sort of social platform, be it a Facebook or something, and it suggests shoes to me. I've already bought them. So it needs a little bit of work. But those technologies that can actually tie together your behavior with your spending and marketing are all driven by this artificial intelligence and machine learning idea. Okay, blockchain. Raise your hand if you've heard of blockchain. Raise your hand if you know what blockchain is. So, blockchain is at peak hype cycle right now. At its heart, blockchain, if you think about conducting business with each other digitally, you're going to exchange digital goods. If you trust the person that you're engaging in this process with, it's pretty simple. You want to sell me something? I want to buy something, I give you some money, you give me the thing. It's all pretty basic. What if you don't trust the person? Do you trust everybody you buy things from? So the idea of blockchain is a way to create commerce that doesn't require trust. Because what you do is you say everybody shares in the system. Everybody has a copy of everything everyone is doing on the system. And it sounds really weird. I was describing it to someone earlier, and I was describing it to you, Renee, and he kept looking at me like this. What is this guy talking about? I don't understand meanings. And it's a little bit much to do in this short a time, but quite simply, when you go to the bank, let me erase that. When you used to go to the bank when you were a kid, right? Some of you who remember this, you got a little book, Sparbook. You got a Sparbook, right? And what was that Sparbook? It kept track of all your transactions, right? So imagine everybody in this room has a magical Sparbook. Everybody hold up your magical Sparbook, right? And when we conduct a transaction of any type, it automatically goes into all of our Sparbooks. Okay? So now all my transactions are in my Sparbook. All those same transactions are in Renee's Sparbook. The way we know it's true is because they match. And since everybody has a copy of it, there's no way to cheat it. That is, if your Sparbook doesn't match mine, I can just throw you out of the network. Or I could sue you. I could do all kinds of interesting things. But it's a way of ensuring that everybody is transacting things the same. And what you may have heard of in relation to blockchain is cryptocurrency, which is a horrible word because it scares people. It's crypto. Bitcoins. Raise your hand if you've heard of Bitcoins. Raise your hand if I've personally given you Bitcoins. Andreas. I'm kind of like the Johnny Appleseed of Bitcoins. I give them to everybody who wants them. So,
Want some?
I'll give you some, don't worry. Just a percentage of some, though. Bitcoins are nothing more than deciding to transact money or currency on blockchain. So instead of exchanging music or exchanging anything digital, say patents or something like that we're talking about, or shipping orders or something like that, what we've decided to exchange with each other is a currency. And the reason it works is because there are millions and millions of people doing this. And remember our little Sparbooks? Everybody who wants to transact in that can have a copy of the entire blockchain Sparbook, as it were. And that way, you're sure that when someone says they gave you money, they actually did give you money, and everyone else can check if that transaction actually happened. Now, it's all encrypted. I don't know who you are. To me, you're OX347892337B6. That's actually Andreas, actually. Sorry to give away your key. But in this world, when you transact things, it's all done very publicly. You don't have to do that. You can actually create your own little blockchains, you can create your own little networks, but it is a way of designing software so that it's no longer contained on one person's computer. Everybody sort of shares it. And it's really it's an amazing technology. If you're interested in it, I would highly recommend a book called The Blockchain Revolution by Don Tapscott, and it's the book that changed my life. People say I'm a true Kool-Aid drinker when it comes to blockchain. In fact, I'm actually going to change it. My last name is Blau to Blauchain. So already copyrighted that name, don't worry. Okay. So what is the problem with blockchain though, right? If you're transacting money on it and it's all digital, how does that help you in the real world? If all you ever do is transact on the blockchain, you're fine. You can buy, sell stuff all you want. But the rest of us want something else. What do we want? We want cash, right? We want some way of saying, this Bitcoin is worth this. That 0.003 Bitcoins I gave you last week are worth this amount of money, right? So we need to transfer it with banks. We need to actually have a mechanism, a broker, as it were, to transfer money in and out of blockchain to cash. 90% of North American and European banks are getting into this market. It is really, really easy to do this now. Come see me afterwards. I'll show you how it works. It's really, really super easy to transact money in and out of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies right now. Next slide. Ripple is a sort of a medium for Bitcoin people to transact money with banks in a very secure and a way that the banks can actually trust Bitcoins. 30% of the top global banks now work with Bitcoin. Another little tidbit is downstairs here in the co-working space, there's actually a Bitcoin ATM where you can actually get Bitcoins out and put Bitcoins in. They take a huge percentage, but that's a whole different story. But the idea of these ATMs, there's actually one in Vaduz too. The idea is that there are these brokers now that let you transact money in and out of it. And so it is becoming a lot more legitimate. I first discovered Bitcoins about 4.5 years ago when this strange little friend of mine who's about 14 was like, there's this new thing, it's called Bitcoins, you want to buy some? I'm like, yeah, you're crazy. But give me a couple of them. So he gave me like $5 in Bitcoins, and I completely forgot about them until I moved here and started doing projects. I'm like, God, I thought I had an account somewhere with some Bitcoins in it. So I went back in my emails, found it, logged back in. I had $250 in there without doing anything. I wish I'd listened to him. He has a really nice house now. But it is very speculative. As a currency, there are a lot of people that consider it a fad. My personal financial advisor thinks I'm a gambler now. And then I show him my return over the last year. He's like, you're a really lucky gambler. But it tends to go up and down a lot too. But it is, as more and more people get into it, it becomes more and more viable. And the statistic that my once 14, now 20-something-year-old friend told me the other day was, if you're thinking about Bitcoins as an investment, you have to remember one thing. There are only 0.1% of people in the world that hold cryptocurrencies. Think of that versus people that have bank accounts. It is in its infancy right now. And yes, it goes way up and way down and stuff like that, but I really think there's a lot of upside potential for not only Bitcoins as a method of commerce, but also blockchain as a design pattern for building software. IoT, this is my personal favorite. The IoT stands for the Internet of Things. And what that is devices. Who in here doesn't have a cell phone? No, but everybody has a cell phone. Your cell phone right now is generating data. Depending on what you're doing with it, it could be generating a lot of data. That data is being snarfed up by people. Snarfed is a colloquial term, means we're stealing it. A lot of, there are a lot of devices out there. Who here wears a Fitbit or a device that has some sort of health monitoring on it, right? Those are Internet of Things devices. All these devices generate tons and tons of data. And the ability to use this data and do analytics on this data, that is analyze it and do make intelligent decisions or actionable decisions from it, is really increasing. I can't think of a single industry where IoT isn't completely disrupting things right now. Manufacturing. All manufacturing tools are generating lots of data too. Take that data, do interesting things with it, detect vibrations. Next slide, cars. Yeah, delivery supply chain. Okay, if you think of the supply chain, think of all those GPS devices that tell you where you are. Imagine having a GPS on a shipping container. They could tell you exactly. I would have loved to have that when my stuff was shipping here, because all they would tell me was, it's in the Panama Canal, it's in Hamburg, it's back in the Panama Canal, it's in Hamburg. So I would have loved to have had a GPS on my shipping container. And when I first came here, and Marco can back me up on that, one of my coworkers said, they'll never put GPS on shipping containers, it's too expensive. We were at a show in Munich 4 months ago, something like that, and there were GPS devices for shipping containers everywhere. Every one of those devices spits out tons and tons of data all the time. The collection, the aggregation, and the use of that data is really what the Internet of Things is all about. And there's medical things, there's just every industry. So Internet of Things, very cool. Your car. I think it was Elon Musk that said that the Tesla is not a car. It's an IT platform. The number of sensors and the amount of data that a Tesla car, just one of them generates, is huge. Now think of an airplane. Airplanes also generate, I think the statistic that I heard is that a Boeing jet generates 4 terabytes of data every flight. Data about the wings, data about the engines, data about the people, data about the movement, all that kind of stuff. All that data needs really smart people to analyze and have systems to collect and process that data. So IoT is nothing but upside right now. If you have a child who's like 13 or 14 and thinking of getting into computers, get them into IoT, because that is the career, I think, for the next decade, is understanding how this massive amount of high-speed data is collected and used. To-dos. I'm going to turn back over to Guntram, and thank you very much.
Thank you for giving us this insight. Now, what are the to-dos? Pretty much for our region, it's you guys picking up work and us picking up work. We always have the saying at Digitale Initiativen that there is only one thing that a member gets when they sign up for this club, and that's work. So, yes, but that's good fun, I have to say as well. So maybe I just give a little insight on this. The club was developed 3 years ago with an initial event which was called Hackathon, which is just 28 hours of fiddling around, so setting up your WordPress website and making it run, or making a database driver, or whatever you want.
Building robots.
Yeah, it can be very basic or very complex. We have networking, people hang out, they drink beer, they talk, and they try to learn more. We have 6 tools that are applied. We have this open space here, so everyone can come here and do something on the Lötstation or whatever you want, or on the 3D printer. So it's it's open. Once you feel that you have to come here regularly, you can pay, I think, 30 euros a month, and then 9 euros a month, and 30 if you are a premium member.
You still can't pay in Bitcoins, though.
Yeah, you can't, yeah. Even you have to sign up on paper because of the bank. I'm sorry for that. We have kind of hackathon. Everyone can join there. We have the events and conferences that Martin and Peter already mentioned a bit previously. And we have meetups, and the idea is it's a platform. So you can come up and have a meeting like this here. So it's very open, and it shall help everyone. What we do is We try to enable people that are already capable of doing stuff to do more stuff, and people that are just getting started out to learn how to Google images. So these two guys, for example, they are 12-year-olds that just came here on the Uma-Hüsler hackathon. They were just collecting images for a presentation, so it's a very open way. But it looks cool. At least they look like they would be geniuses. Also, it's a very inclusive form how we work. We try to be open to everyone at every level. We have very skilled women that are running women's courses for women, coding courses. Coding courses for women, more like maybe also women's for women, but I don't know. And it's pretty much our annual program. We start out in January with Agent Conference, which is for software developers. Google, Facebook, and Microsoft people come to Dornbirn and talk a bit about what they think is important for the future. We have the HTL Hackathon, where HTL students get their projects or games running. Steinbock's already mentioned this product development workshop. Uma-Hüsler Hackathon will come up in 2018 as well. It's going to be on this year, so we're happy if someone wants to join and help organize this hackathon on a ship. Rails Girls is a regular event, and it's very well received as well. So pretty much it's a women's only event where you have no one who's just making stupid comments. We have the Game Jam and the Chatbot Jam and other events, so that's where Game Jam and Chatbot Jam will come up this weekend on Saturday at INET Logistics, if I'm right. Yeah. So you can build your own little chatbot where you can ask on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp Messenger, what's the weather, and it will hopefully return something. And yeah, that's how our events look like. We are happy if you join, and we are happy if you want to support it by personal effort. Companies show their love through effort and money. People show their love through time. So we are happy if you do one or the other. And I want to thank you, Martin, and I want to thank you, Martin and Peter, and everyone else who helped to organize this, that you came here. Thanks a lot.